In business, nothing happens until you get a lead. And in this video, I'm hoping to share what might be a better way of thinking about lead magnets so that they're easier to make and much simpler to evaluate on whether or not the lead magnet is good enough or not. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Brandon Dillon with ResponseFlood.com, where we use YouTube ads to sell coaching software and services. And earlier today, I was on a Zoom call with a client. I thought it was a really interesting call because over the course of this conversation, it was a reminder that the way that business owners think about marketing is very different than the way that full-time marketers do. For business owners, the marketing is just a means to an end, right? It's a way to generate profit to grow the business. It's only marketers that start to think about it in terms of the technical pieces. We think about things like webinar or ebook or VSL or virtual event. And because we're thinking about it from that perspective, we also create content that talks about the technical pieces without giving them enough context. And I think that leads to business owners just basically going through the motions, and they create these lead magnets without knowing why. And for that reason, the lead magnets end up being inferior. And that's what I'm hoping to resolve with this video. I'd like to talk a bit more about why we actually create a lead magnet, what its purpose is, because once you have that in mind, it makes it much simpler to decide what to build and much simpler to determine whether or not it's good enough for prime time. So why? Why do we create these lead magnets? The only reason that we create a lead magnet is to give an immediate benefit to the person. The bigger the benefit, the better, so that they feel comfortable enough to take the next step in your process. That next step could be several different things. It could be booking a call. It could be buying a product. It could be subscribing to your software. It doesn't really matter what that next step is. But what is important is why the lead magnet exists. It's only to get them to the point where they feel comfortable taking that next step. When you have that prism in mind, when you have that goal in mind, it makes it much easier to determine what you should make. It makes it much faster to make those things. And it makes it much simpler to evaluate whether or not it's good enough or not. Because you can start getting away from thinking about the terms that everybody uses. You don't need to create an ebook. There's a lot of brands that don't need an ebook. If you are selling a software, you probably don't need an ebook. You can promote it if you want, but really it's your software that is what the person wants. So giving a trial is probably a better lead magnet than some sort of fancy ebook. Ultimately, there's 4 different parts to getting benefit from a lead magnet, from getting that immediate benefit. They need to open it, they need to consume it, they need to use it, and they need to benefit from it. So with those 4 steps in mind, you can start to evaluate between these different options that you have at your disposal. And ideally, you want to go with the one that's the simplest, the one that will give the biggest benefit with the least amount of effort. It's the fastest for them to open, use, consume, use, and then benefit. In my business and a lot of the brands that I help promote, we generally are promoting coaching software or services. So that usually means giving some sort of experience or expertise up front that they can then use and benefit from. There's a lot of different shapes and sizes that might take, but we tend to lean towards video because YouTube ads is the traffic source that I use. But really, I'm not limited to that. There's a million different things that we can promote and that I do promote. We also promote tools as an example, because that happens to be the best way to give an immediate benefit in some of the marketplaces where we're in. The idea here is that you don't need content on YouTube or a course to decide what to create in order to get contact details. Just think about that end goal. How do I create enough benefit for this person that they feel comfortable taking the next step? Answer that question and you have your lead magnet done. So this was more of a philosophical video than a lot of my other ones. It's just because it was top of mind after this conversation earlier, but I hope it did benefit you. And if it did and you like this sort of content, go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to have a lot more content about YouTube ads and lead generation and booking sales calls and selling on the phone and all sorts of other things. So if you like this sort of content, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.